Aloha, y'all. It is Saturday, Saturn's Day, hence the name. The, hold on, my phone is doing weird things. I don't even know what day it is. The 3rd, there we go. Saturn's Day, the 3rd of October. A lot going on in general, according to Galactic Calendar, which is Dream Spell Stuffs. Today is a heart chakra day. It is yellow rhythmic star guided by elegance. As far as the heart chakra, the Anahata chakra. If you're going to be doing chakra stuffs, tapping into this would behoove you. Do the mudras, which are your hand positions. For this would be something to that effect. The mantras. And see where that magic takes you. So today is Saturn's Day, Saturday the 3rd. The sun is in Libra. The moon is in Taurus. Mercury's in Scorpio. Venus is in Virgo now. Welcome to that. And Mars is in Aries. So we had a few shifts. Venus shifting into Virgo and the moon into Taurus. So we got a little more earth, a little more grounding going on. Let's go ahead and pull some cards, shall we? Hopefully you're doing well. Amani, what up? So, what wants to pop today? I've got some Hamilton songs stuck in my head. My loyal royal subjects. But of course, singing a song from the King of England, George, and it's a king card, King of Cups. So, kings are the highest masculine energy of a suit, right? And the cups are about emotionality, creativity, sexuality, dreaminess, potentially drunkenness and drugs. But King of Cups is the earthy, the grounded, embodied part of water. And the water is, like I said, the emotions, intuitions, dreams, creativity, right? So this is compassionate and kind-natured, dramatic and living grandiose, so like living big, receiving artistic success and belief in self and in others. The King of Cups, I bring peace and harmony. The King of Cups travels through his kingdom appreciating a watery realm which brings such life and sustenance. Water's transformative properties are utterly unique. Its ability to freeze, melt, evaporate, heat, sublimate, and combine with so many elements makes it the ultimate shapeshifter. The king is the master of his element. He can control and discipline his emotional viscosity, a man totally at ease with life. He is portrayed here as an old Rastafarian shaman, smoking his pipe, always in good spirits. He has great command of the animistic realm, believing in the supernatural power which organizes and animates the material universe. Hovering over the ocean on his craft throne, a unique creation, the decrepit, burnt-out car has been upcycled into something extraordinary, reflecting his capacity to redefine and reconstitute discarded or dangerous elements into something of value. Over time, he has developed immense emotional intelligence and can access and bridge the conscious and subconscious realms. He is fully aware of his connection to the divine source. Listening calmly to its guidance, he brings a great, timeless perspective to unfolding events. He is a diplomat, a wise counselor to his people, enabling his kingdom to live in peace and harmony. This same gentle, compassionate, and tolerant nature is directed towards his family, and his presence as a father is abundantly amiable, creative, and attentive without being unboundaried. Like the gift that keeps on giving, in his presence anybody and anything can take on value. This is symbolized by the beam of light emanating from his power center, which turns the liquid in the cup to gold. Wise and experienced, chilled, laid back, humorous, free-spirited, and creative. He is a jovial Neptune-like figure who has made his home in the worlds of land and sea. As an arts connoisseur, he appreciates the power of the arts in all their forms to convey individual and collective life stories, both as a cause for celebration and as a cathartic release and purification. He will venture into unfriendly, dark, and unpleasant places to infuse them with good humor, embodying the ideal of polishing one's mind and body to foster a spirit of harmony. An Aikido master, indeed. The King of Cups suggests a calm, creative, and wise influence is at hand. There is great inner strength to be accessed, which with it a natural ease, grace, and joy. The unseen is seen, accepted, and beautifully expressed. Fear is dissolved in the elixir of harmony. Right? Peace and harmony, Sun in Libra, talking quite a bit about that. And with the moon now in Taurus and Venus in Virgo, it's about practical, like what makes us feel that we're being of service, like how are we being, what do we love being of service with? How do we like bringing value and groundedness to our love life, specifically with Venus, but also like the things we enjoy. But with the moon coming into Taurus, so two Earth, Virgo, and Taurus, moon and Venus in those senses, we're going to embody beauty. Right, with the Sun in Libra, it's about beauty. We're going to come from an emotionally balanced place. And with Mercury and Scorpio, we're going to go into those dark places and transmute and make that which has been, there's some Bible verses like what was used. I'm going to botch this. It's like with that which you designed for like my, destruction, I make good, or whatever the fuck is going on there, right? And Mephisto, I think, was saying in Faust, it's like he tries to make everything like a destructive bad thing, and it turns out for good, even though he doesn't mean to. So we're having this creative boon. We're going to be very fluid, very grounded with Venus and Virgo. It's going to be like, I want to do things for my health and your health. And I want to do things, I feel in love with the organization of reality and the practicality of it. With the moon in Taurus, we're going to feel beauty. And both the moon in Taurus and the sun in Libra are ruled by Venus. So like arts, creativity, love, right? Not surprising that the King of Cups is coming on. So the King of Cups, the earthy, the grounded part of water, emotionality, compassionate and kind nature, dramatic and living grandiose, receiving artistic success, believing in self and in others. Once again, Libra, Sun, believing in what? Self and others. So let's go ahead and get more cards. Dreams of Gaia. What have we got from the Dreams of Gaia? I'm telling you, this one line from Hamilton is coming up again and again. We got the crone. So, the crone is very Virgo Venus, right? Where it's like this mature, practical earth witch, basically. So, the crone, number 7. Oh, number 6, rather. Roman numerals aren't my forte, clearly. Or I'm just not paying attention how I should. All right, so the crone. The crone is about feminine power. Venus in Virgo, feminine service power, healing power, and the moon in Taurus. And Libra is a masculine sign, but it's ruled by Venus too, so it's like just feminine girl power right now in a lot of ways. The crone, feminine power, fearlessness, authenticity, individuality, independence, new purpose, freedom, and shadow self. Key phrases: the woman who understands her true nature, being aware of your choices, being unafraid to walk your path alone, a life of your own design, untapped power and potential, a fertile and productive future, a childless state. Being unbowed and unapologetic, respecting and cherishing your elders, a direct and forthright approach is needed, do what's necessary, not what's expected. It is time to be fierce and fight back. The meaning: the crone symbolizes a proud and mature woman, an aging woman who's no longer influenced by a need to reproduce her parental responsibilities. She may be approaching or have reached a stage in her life where menstrual cycles have ceased or slowed, but she is no longer true to the crone archetype of old that is often depicted by Western society. The nature of the crone has evolved with times. She is the wise woman who is like nature, wild, still, passionate, volatile, calm, peaceful, adaptable, and flowing, creative, and powerful. She is everything she chooses to be. She is a woman who is aware of her choices and may well have transitioned from maiden to crone without feeling any need or desire to be a mother. The crone is unafraid of being alone or walking her path alone. After centuries of being made an outcast and no longer being seen as having a functional role within society because her childbearing days are over, the crone has learned to look after her own needs. She has, by necessity, become a strong and independent individual who has found new purpose. Her life is full, has meaning and direction, and it is a life of her own design. The crone is comfortable in her own skin and free of artifice and pretense. I mean, that's such Venus in Virgo, right? It's like, it's going to be like demure and basic in a very functional and practical way. She is mature, honest, and aware, and wise. She is both understanding and compassionate, but speaks and acts with a directness that some may find intimidating. Moon in Taurus can sometimes just say what it is, right? Venus in Virgo can just say what it is. The crone can be quick to hug and offer support, but she can also be blunt and is unafraid to deliver a tough love message if it feels needed. At times, this can give her the appearance of cruelty and ruthlessness, but while the crone is not a hard woman, she can be tough and unwilling to embrace other people's illusions. This is why some will always be quick to vilify the crone. She can be depicted as cruel, hard, wicked, and selfish, and the very fact that she is both unrepentant and unwilling to be what society expects her to be may make her a target for those who are slaves to society's dictates, as well as those who impose society's dictates. But the crone is also very gentle and kind. She is a loving, supportive, it's both hands, Sun and Libra, right? So it's like she's, she doesn't take BS, which is very Virgo, Venus, very Mercury and Scorpio, very Moon and Taurus, no BS kind of about it. But at the same time, kind, gentle, right? Loving, supportive, and nurturing. Every face she wears is her true face, but the face she wears will be the one that she feels is needed at the time. She is who she needs to be when she needs to be it. This is why the crone is often portrayed as a woman who is past her prime, wrinkled and ugly. If she is made to believe that she is useless, she can be controlled. If the crone becomes aware of her potential and power, she is a force to be reckoned with. The crone symbolizes the emergence of a mature woman who sees herself as being in her prime, with many fertile, productive, and creative years ahead of her. She is a woman who embraces her true power and potential. So, let me just... So, where would it be for the present? Here. So the crone in a present position, which is where we'll put her because it's happening now. The crone in the present position represents a woman or man of any age whose focus has shifted beyond the role of parenthood. The crone might be a woman whose menstrual cycles have ceased, but the crone might also be a woman or a man who could reproduce if they chose to, but has instead made a conscious and deliberate choice not to have or bear children and instead focus on a career or personal interests. I'm guilty of that. I'm the uncle of the world. Haley and I are not going to probably have children, like 99.9%. So we're kind of embodying this, where it's like, we could do that, but like, why? A lot of reasons why not to, but we're not probably choosing to do that. Though I've given that veto card to her. If she wants kids, I'll give her kids. But I think we have more important things to do than run around feeding mouths and that. That's not my mission, I don't think. Though I love kids, and she loves kids, it seems. So it is time for outdated perceptions to change. The crone is not just a woman of a particular age, but a woman or a man of a particular state of mind and being, who has a high level of awareness and maturity, who may feel no inclination to have or raise children. Heard. Raise my hand. That's kind of what I'm just saying. Women and men now have more choice available to them. Neither gender has to have a partner or children in order to feel fulfilled or complete. The time has long passed since it was necessary for humans to reproduce in order to preserve or increase the numbers within a tribe. Our tribes have gone far beyond this. In fact, some would say that it is a wiser person who chooses not to reproduce because they think of the planet and its dwindling resources and not of themselves. I would kind of that's one of the reasons I'm not trying to do it. I'm like, I don't want to, it's mostly selfishness and just like, I'm not there. But in another way, that's coming from scarcity thinking, and I don't think that helps ultimately. Like, everything that needs to happen does, so you can't just like not have kids because you don't think you'll have enough for them. That might inform your decisions. Crone by choice or crone by gender or nature. The crone is a person who is not influenced by reproductive urges or the issues younger women and men in our society face. They see beyond body image, gender, sexuality, age, tribe and family, and societal expectations. The crone symbolizes a wise and mature person who chooses to be free and independent. They create a life and make their choices based upon their needs and desires, not the needs and desires of the family, partners, or children, or society. They are also unbowed and unapologetic. Whether they choose to be partnered with another, single or childless, or a grandparent who says no to babysitting duties because they have something else they would prefer to do. They do not believe that their choices are selfish. Crone types are just as capable of selflessness as any other, but they do often have different priorities to those who have or want children. When the crone appears in the present, she represents freedom of choice and freedom to be. You only have one life to live, so it is important to live it, and that means putting your priorities first. You do not have to embrace traditions and beliefs that are archaic and restrictive. You do not have to do as you are told or what is expected of you. You do not have have to allow others to determine your future or decide whether you have a purpose. Do not allow your age, your appearance, your gender, or your sexuality to become something that others use to define, restrict, or limit you. You are what you choose to be. And I think this is kind of the darker side of the Libra scales, where it's like we could become codependent and just like catering to other people's stuff. It's like, no, make sure you're doing you and doing what you need to do for yourself. You can't always be what other people want. In fact, if you live a life of people pleasing, which would be the shadow of Venus and Virgo, where it's like, I will sacrifice for the duty of others, or the moon in Taurus, not so much the moon in Taurus, but more the sun in Libra, where it's like, I will people please. We can lose who we are in that imbalance, and doing so miss out on real valuable opportunities. We need to do who we need to be, if that makes sense. Sometimes that looks different than what society wants. Like, society's mandate is like, make more kids, educate them in this way, make the system more like grow the system, depending on what systems you're talking about. And this is somebody who's like, I see my value in spite of that, right? And with like the crone is kind of like a boss ass chick, right? Obviously. And the King of Cups is kind of this complementary. It's like a more feminine, chill, like Rastafarian. Maybe this is the grandpa who will like watch the kids, and this is the grandma who is like, I want to go bowling and fuck those, I want to go do my thing with my friends. Like, I'm not going to do that. So it's kind of a yin yang situation. Libra scales, both and, right? So interesting cards coming up here. Let's keep going and get a Galactic Heritage card. Forever and ever, ever and ever. Right? This song from Hamilton is stuck in my head. Really stuck in my head. And I haven't watched it recently or anything, so odd. We've got Ultimate Evolution Zeta Reticuli 100. So let's see what this is all about. Ultimate Evolution, page 100, or not page, number 100, Zeta Reticuli, Ultimate Evolution, Future Timeline. This card represents the birth of a new species. The Zetas transform themselves from a species of fear and limitation to one of higher consciousness, compassion, and love. And that's funny because at some level this is compassion and love in a masculine form to like the highest degree. And then this is someone who's like, I'm going to transform myself and not do, not be thinking in fear and limitations, like what do they need of me, to a detriment, right? It's like, what do I need to do for me, right? Not thinking in terms of fear. And then once again, compassion and love coming on hard with the King of Cups. It was not an easy road, but an immensely fulfilling one. Because of this, they can now assist countless others in species evolution. This card represents your personal evolution. You have the capability to make dramatic changes in who you are by walking through the fire, confronting rather than avoiding your fears, asking for help and trusting the process. Your galactic family is with you. You are not alone. You are not alone. Sometimes when I'm really like moody and I want to be with Haley and like we can't be with each other right now because she's over in England and I'm in America, like I'll send her Michael Jackson songs. We have a lot of little Michael Jackson songs that are for us in our relationship, and that's one. Like sometimes when I'm like, I really want to be with you and I can't be physically with you, but you're not alone. That comes to mind. Anyway, this card refers to the Zeta era in which their fears and challenges were behind them and they became an enlightened species. And both of these, the King of Cups, very enlightened in terms of like, look, he's even got like this like lasers or whatever light of illumination coming from his mind. So he's illumined. And then the crone is like the last phase of this feminine, I forget what it is. Like it's like virgin maiden crone or whatever it is. I'm forgetting now. The first one. But this is like the mature and evolved form of this feminine archetype. Becoming an enlightened species. It is also very connected to the preceding card 99, Mirror Reflection, which is very Sun and Libra. It's like you're reflecting something back to yourself. This card refers to the profound evolution that happens when beings confront their fears and the issues they don't want to see. But it is much more than confrontation. It also has to do with seeing the issues you are avoiding clearly and not looking away, while surrendering to the process of owning their presence in your life. Embracing them as teachers, having gratitude and never judging yourself because of them. This leads to compassion, self-responsibility, self-respect, and the ability to receive and give infinite amounts of unconditional love. This process is so powerful that if everyone in the human race were willing to clearly see themselves and do the work necessary for evolution, Earth could transform within a very short amount of time. If this card comes up in your reading, it is likely that it is encouraging you to accelerate your evolution by activating this process of clear sight and self-acceptance for the purpose of your evolution. We literally have clear sight he's seeing clearly. I can see clearly now that I'm a Rastafarian guy. And then like self-acceptance, right? She's accepted herself, and she's like, I am who I am, and I'm not going to change for society. I don't need to be what you need me to be. It also has to do with seeing issues you are avoiding clearly. I think I said that. For the purpose of evolution. The card may also be acknowledging that you have already begun the process. If you are aware of having connections with the Zeta species, then this card may also be reminding you of those connections. The Zetas, having gone through this process of ultimate evolution, can be wonderful guides along your path. So that's what's up. Let's get an animal oracle card. What's to pop? We got the seahorse. Equality. Which is very, I mean, literally we have kind of like, I mean, if there was a stoner grandpa doing his own thing in the woods, that's kind of the King of Cups. He's like, hey, I've got stories to tell. I'm this old hermit with like a bong and I'm having fun and I've got a poem to tell you. Kind of that kind of craze. And then the counterpart would be like this, which is a very feminized masculine, right? The King of Cups in that sense, like a very watery, emotional kind of guy. And this crone is more like, I'm tough, and like more like Moon and Taurus. It's like, I'm tough, I know what I want, I don't need to do stuff. And with them together, they create this Libra scale balance, right? And what? There's an equality there, right? An equality in the relationships. So let's end like the representation kind of here. So let's get number 14, the seahorse. Here, this is a little bright, that helps you see the art. So, seahorse, equality. Seek equality in relationships, in particular intimate ones. You will attract what you resonate. I'm always saying this, like the relationship you find yourself in at any time, this is why some come and go. It's like you attract where you're at. Where are you vibing? That's what you're going to attract in your life. And like alchemies that are applicable and able to happen within where you're vibrating, right? You will attract what you resonate. You can decide your future. That's very much the crone. I can decide who I want to be, right? Hiding from our fears is rarely a good strategy. It is time to ensure that the domestic and emotional labor in your world is equally shared. Mythos. It is said that the beautiful sea nymph Salacia was happy and content, and that she kept a sea garden of beautiful corals and seahorses. The king of all the seas, the great Neptune, saw her one day and set his heart upon her, wanting her for his wife. And this is a Neptunian king, it said. So we've already got a resonator there. King of Cups, Neptune, the king of water, or like the oceans. Salacia was chaste and inexperienced and feared Neptune. She was afraid that he would take her away from all she loved or worse, so she hid from him in one of the furthest oceans. Neptune meant no harm or disrespect to Salacia and searched for her, sending his favorite dolphin to look. The dolphin found Salacia and her seahorses, and they explained her fears to him. The dolphins assured them that they would be happy with Neptune, and Salacia would not lose the thing she most loved. Salacia consented to the marriage, and Neptune loved and honored her. She wore pearls in her hair and rode in a pearl chariot drawn by both seahorses and dolphins to signify equal union. And it's funny, it says pearls in her hair, and this crone has white in her hair. Right? I'm not going to say this pearls, but that kind of like popped out in my mind. And she was stepping into her ultimate evolution, right? She was this like fearful maiden who didn't want to be, was like living in fears. And when she kind of worked through those fears and got to the a place where she was loved and accepted, she stepped into a higher form of herself. Like maybe she could actually start a business that she loved that she couldn't do before because of Neptune's pockets, or whatever the point is, right? She actualized. She became more of what she needed to be, but she had to step through her fears of abandoning what she had already. She never lost what she had. It's like, you keep your hobbies, girl. You keep your interests. We'll make them bigger and better. You like knitting? Let's make a fucking sweater factory, or what, like that kind of thing. So, the animal. If you have ever seen a seahorse in the flesh, you will attest to how wondrous these animals are. Swimming upright, this bony fish without scales has a distinctive horse-shaped head and a tail they wrap around sea vegetation. They are very beautiful and can appear in a variety of colors. They range in size from a tiny 1.5 centimeters to a more robust 14 centimeters, but all move in supremely delicate ways. Most have a propulsion system made up of rapidly oscillating fins, including the dorsal fin, and they often float with the current to go from place to place. They have no teeth and suck up their food. One of the most tenacious things about seahorses is their reproductive cycle and the high involvement of the male in rearing their young. High involvement, equality, right? So the male and the female are involved. Libra Sun. It's like taking both. Seahorses, and with the Venus and Virgo now, like this is going to show really hard where it's like, well, it's in a weird way. The male, you'll see in a second, the roles kind of reverse in a sense, and the male has a brood pouch, which we'll talk about. And it's like, I will do some practical things for this relationship, right? One of the most famous things about seahorses is their reproductive cycle and high involvement of males in rearing their young. Seahorses have many elaborate courtship rituals that can last for many days prior to their actual mating. Venus and Virgo, it's like we have to get this just right. If you don't say XYZ on this date and we don't, like we're not going to do it unless it's a full moon on a Tuesday or whatever. Seems like there's elaborate rituals to their mating, right? That seems very OCD, very particular. That's Venus and Virgo. When they are ready, the male opens his brood pouch, which contains the sperm. The female deposits her unfertilized egg into the pouch, and the pouch closes. So in a very Sun and Libra situation, there's a reversal of the roles, kind of, traditional roles, like how we look at it in mammals at least. The eggs are fertilized, and the baby seahorses grow within the male's brood pouch, protected by him. Embodied and protected. Moon and Taurus. It's like, this is my treasure. I will hold on to this. I will feed this. I will nourish this. And Venus and Virgo is about nurturing and health, right? And it rules the stomach, Virgo. So it's like we're talking about a brood pouch in the stomach. His pouch makes him look quite pregnant. When they are at sustainable age, between 5 and 2,500 little seahorses are ejected from the pouch. The magic. Like most ocean-based elemental magic, and I do think it's cool because today's card is the King of Cups, so it's ocean magic, right? Neptunian kind of Rastafari stuffs. Like most ocean-based elemental magic, the keys are flow and fluidity. However, seahorse magic can be utilized around issues of equality. If you want to be seen as an equal, or you're being discriminated against in sex, race, or status, which was what the crone was dealing with, she got over that shit. She was like, I'm not just a pretty girl that has babies, thanks. And in a sense, and the seahorses have come to a place where it's like, actually, you're the guy, you're going to hold on to the babies. If you're kind of in Libra Sun, this balance of equality, this justice, right? If you want to be seen as an equal, scales balanced, or you're being discriminated against in sex, race, or status, you can ask for help or of seahorse energy and receive balance and justice. Very apt. Symbology, or very apropos, I mean. Symbology is the seahorse head, seahorse pulling a chariot, beautiful sea goddesses with seahorses. There are 43 species of seahorse, the majority of which are vulnerable or endangered. So we have to be aware of in a very big outweigh, it's like it's all good, but it's like we can make decisions that don't negatively impact the worlds around us, the worlds that are so delicate. And I mean, look at that magic. It's like a bony fish, basically, that has reverse sex roles in terms of, pregnancy and stuff. So that magic wouldn't be an issue before, and now it's like threatened. So we got to be careful. Is kind of what I'm getting at. We got Gilbert and George. We just had a full moon. There's a moon in Aries, and this is very Libra, balanced, very symmetrical, right? It's talking about balanced relationships. And this is kind of some weird, it's resonating with the female inserting her whatever, like eggs into the male brood pouch. They're inserting each other's fingers in each other's mouths, kind of levels of resonance there. So what can we get from Gilbert and George? They are an Italian and a British artist. Gilbert Proche and George Passmore have waved the banner of Art for All, which is very Libra Sun. It's like, beauty for all, justice for all, Metallica album. And Justice for All, I think it's called. Since their collaborative debut in 1967, collaboration, partnerships, equality, right? Seahorse. Which works with addressing sex, religion, politics, and social taboos through an aesthetic of sometimes hallucinatory pop. And social taboos being the crone, right? She's like, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I don't care if it's popular. Early works include living sculpture, in which Gilbert and George painted themselves metallic and walked, and I just said Metallica, painted themselves metallic and walked London's streets. Today, they're known for large grid-like paintings and are identified both by their trademark tailored suits and their birthday suits. They're often the nude subjects of their works. Gilbert and George have described their influences as everything from humanity to universal suffering. That's some Mercury in Scorpio stuff. It's like, what do you want to talk about? It's like human suffering, man, death, the heavy. So what can we get from this dynamic duo? It says dress the part. So I think what we're getting with the Sun in Libra, with the Moon in Taurus, with Venus now in Virgo, with Mercury in Scorpio, with Mars in Aries, we're going to have to dress the part, and that sometimes means being creative and emotionally open, grounded but emotionally open. The King of Cups is like, I am, the King Neptune or whatever from The Little Mermaid, but it's like when he has his heart opened and he's willing to have all the mermaids like be at their wedding at the end of The Little Mermaid. Like that's the kind of open-mindedness, right? Like he's not having a daughter be like, but daddy, I love him and I want to do what I want and society won't let me. We're kind of getting into this place where we can really tap into a creative energy with the Libra Sun. It's beautification for justice, for equality, right? The seahorse, for coming into balance, for our ultimate evolution, ultimately. But with this, with the King of Cups, what we really need to be tapping into is our heart. It's a heart chakra day, tapping into your intuitive emotions flowing. Today we just read the Gene Key 2, which is the feminine principle, the receptive, and it's like the waters. In the beginning where the spirit hovered over the waters is very feminine, and then boom, let there be light, very masculine. It's like, let's go into the spirit of the waters. This is I have Mars in Cancer, 12th house, and Mercury conjunct in 12th house Cancer. This is very that energy where it's like, be poetic, be caring, have boundaries. That's maybe the lesson here. Have boundaries, but also be like open and willing. And even he's like a Rastafarian. Maybe drugs and alcohol are involved at some level, right? With his awareness. But ultimately, he's coming from a place of openness and intuition and creativity. And that is, I think, part of what it means to be a boss. The crone is kind of like this master of the feminine. And both of these are kind of paradoxical. It's like a Libra Sun scale thing going on, right? So it's like this guy is like a really kind of artistic, feminine, caring, nurturing king. And this chick is like maybe a tough as nails, Annie Oakley, independent, I do what I want, but I still care kind of vibe. So they're kind of inverted, or showing the spectrum of kind of what the poles can be in that sense. But usually we think of a king, a masculine, as like, like the Emperor card or something like that. And this is a king, like he's a masculine highest level, but at the same time it's like hearted, intuitive, emotional, caring, right? Nurturing. Whereas usually with women, we're like, oh, you're going to have babies and oh, you know how to cook. And I'm not trying to be too cliche and like whatever on that front, but it's like the nurturing and the maternal kind of come in for the feminine. It's like this receptive thing. And this is a very phallic, I do what I want. I'm going to stick it to life energy for a woman. This is almost more Athena energy, where it's like Athena doesn't have kids. Athena doesn't even have a boyfriend. She doesn't need one, right? So you see my point. There's kind of a juxtaposition, ironically there, which shows, I think, at some level, ultimate evolution. We have archetypes that we rise through, but then they bifurcate and spread. So it's like masculine doesn't mean just like you go kill the animals and bring them home and fuck the cave wife or what. It's like that's not all there is to it, right? Although men seek, right, and the phallus injects itself, whereas the receptive is the yoni energy, right? But that doesn't mean women just stay here and be quiet and cry and be emotional and just like, do artsy things and talk gossip or whatever the cliches of femininity are, right? It can also be this boss ass chick who's doing awesome things, who's independent of systems, like more like Athena or Joan of Arc, Amelia Earhart, that kind of energy, right? Really strong women who are like doing what they want in spite of like standards. And the standards are models, they're not absolute. Just like the standard of like kingship usually is like, yo, like this is like even softer than Ned Stark in a sense. It's like, I love my kingdom and I want to make beautiful poetry for it all. You see my point, I'm kind of rambling. But the ultimate evolution is to be the entire yin yang, right? So a masculine perspective would be like, I need to go conquer and destroy, and then you get to a point where you integrate the feminine to a point where you're this. And then a feminine is like, I need to, love and support and nurture. And then you integrate the masculine to a point where you like do your own thing. So it's this both and simultaneity thing. That is ultimate evolution. That is ultimate alchemy. There's an equality within every polarity. There's a balance, Libra Sun, right? And there's this embodied kind of beauty, Taurus Moon. And why? For Venus and Virgo, practicality, for the health of things. The Tao has a way of balancing itself in a big meta pull out way. Like everything is always balancing itself. So, I mean, this is kind of, you see this in politics or something to the point where it's like, oh, if the president is a Republican, the House is usually really Democrats and all this stuff. It's balancing, right? It doesn't always work exactly like this, but you see my point. Like where the most loud thing out is happening, like that's the big, like let's say punk rock is really big and like everyone's piercing their noses and listening to The Cure and the Police and stuff. Like at that same time, there's people like getting really moody. Like the seeds for the alternative rock thing of the 90s are coming out at that point, if that analogy makes sense. So there's always equality. Like nothing's ever out of balance, even when it seems out of balance. Even if the scales seem like this, like there's a balance to it that's beyond human evolution. We even see, or cognitive evolution in a sense. Our minds can't grok it. And we see balance even here, where it's like, oh, I poke my foot or put my finger in your mouth, and you put my finger in mine, and huzzah! Dress the part, though, right? This guy's an emotional king, so he's being that. He's dressing the part. He's being creative. He's being nurturing. This chick, the crone, is a very independent, no pussyfooting, means business kind of energy. She's dressing the part, right? She's acting it. She's being it. Be the thing to the fullest. That's the ultimate evolution. Be yourself fully, right? And come to that equilibrium for who you are. And that's always going to kind of be changing. Hit me up for a reading if you kind of want to know what that looks like in terms of your chart. I love giving readings, and I can kind of tell you a trajectory of like who you are, why you came from where, and where you're possibly going, right? But ultimately, everything in the Tao is harmonized. Libra Sun, wet dream, everything's in harmony always, even when it doesn't seem that way, right? So we need to kind of act like we know, dress the part, like know that it's all good. And once we start getting out of our here and getting into our heart, we'll know that. Like when that's the trusting of the universe. You step into this place where you're like, I don't know why, like Joseph, I don't know why I'm getting thrown in prison, why my brothers are betraying me and lying to my dad and saying the beasts of the field ate me and all this shit and ripping up my awesome fucking Technicolor robe. Like, what the fuck? And he had to sit in prison for a long time, but there was something that was balancing. Ultimately, he was put in a position of power to basically enable him to save his family during a time of drought and issues like that. So there's this huge, the thing is always balancing itself. It's always in balance, but that's a dynamic balance, right? That's a dynamic equality. It's not just like stasis. When we see the yin yang, it's like the most dynamic way to show something in a static form. It's like, look, there's a little bit of here, there's a little bit here, there's a line, a squiggle. It's like, imagine that swirling as fast as possible, and that's life. It's like everything has a little bit of everything in it, and it's all good, it's all balanced. That's the point of hexagrams of the I Ching, etc. So trust the part. You're going to vibrate where you're at, and where you're at is all good, and where you're at is going to vibrate other things. So if you're in a masculine, like, creative place, like, you're going to maybe attract certain things to counterbalance that, to create equality. So you'll find, like, if you're in this super, super moody place, you'll find somebody who grounds you, right? And if you're super, super stoic and like all this, you'll have people come in who are emotional and creative and be like, hey, lighten up, right? It all balances like that. I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of my relationship with Haley. We're divine masculine and feminine counterparts. So we're balancing each other. In a lot of ways, I'm much more feminine and emotional than she is. And she's way more stoic and pragmatic. She's a Virgo with a first house moon and Scorpio and Aries and Uranus in first house, stuff like that. So it's like, she's very, she's a warrior. Whereas I'm more of like a poet. Or something, and I need to step into my power as a man, and she needs to in my doing that, it's going to cause her to kind of chill out and be chill. But you see my point. There's this divine alchemy. Our ultimate purpose is actually interlace all of this, not just in my relationship, but everyone doing this to everybody at all times. We find equality with those that we're participating in the Tao with. You will resonate a certain frequency, you will be on a certain frequency level, and then there's complementarianism is the word for it. Things are going to complement you, right? Like, they complement each other. If that makes sense. So dress the part, like, just be yourself, and what you need will manifest. Does that make sense? All right. So, Let's go ahead. And the problem is when we're inauthentic, like the shadow in of Libra Sun is like, I'm gonna placate and do what everybody wants me to do, and there's a time to be like gracious and stuff like that, and not just like, yeah, I do what I want. Which is the Moon in Taurus is like, I'm fixed and I'm staying with this because I love this and I don't give a fuck what you guys think. That could be problematic. But there's mostly the time is to be aware of what your needs are and who you are, and when you do that, when you establish firmly in a very loose way, paradox, when you establish yourself as yourself and you show up fully as yourself without like disempowering yourself and only being what other people want you to be, when you own it, when you dress the part, when you walk it like you talk it, walk it like I talk it, you're gonna find people showing up in that way to complement what you represent at that moment in time. Does that make sense? Like, it's all alchemy. So if you're going to be like, +2, the Tao shows you someone who's -2, so you come to a 0 point. And that's what life is. So we're getting serpentine, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. Probably a tomatoes type thing. I'm going to say serpentine because that's what I would do. What it is, a lime to kale green stone with a reptilian appearance, and I will say, I guess everybody has everything in them, quantum, holographic stuffs, but Haley is O negative, so reptilian coming in hard here. Stone with a reptilian appearance, serpentines, maybe I would say serpentine, not tine, I don't even know what I would say now. Serpentines activating energy as like a deep exfoliation treatment for the spiritual self. Who needs it? Kundalini yogis, anyone in need of a fresh start. Where to put it? During meditation, hold serpentine in each hand and concentrate on circulating energy from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. And the middle point of that is the heart chakra. So it's like you're doing this through love. You're doing this, right? Like, do it in love. All things through love. When to use it, or compassion might be a better word because we attach so much shit to love. It's like, no, this doesn't mean like fucking Valentine's Day chocolate roses like everybody, but it does mean compassion to self and others. When to use it, when it's time to let go of tired beliefs and get stuck energy unstuck, right? And with the moon in Taurus, we're actually looking at our values. Like, what do I believe is true? What do I feel comfortable with, right? Do I want to wear a hoodie and just sit around and watch anime today? Probably will do that because I can't skateboard because I bashed up my knee right now. Or do I want to go, run a 10K and like lift weights and be sweating and full of adrenaline? Like, what makes you feel comfortable? With the moon and Taurus, we're defining those values. And with the Venus going into Virgo, it's going to be things about health, practicality that make us feel good and alive in a heart level and turn our inner child on, and make us feel in love with life and enraptured by life in a healthy way. So, when it's time to let go of tired beliefs, that's the moon and Taurus, when it's time to kind of reassess what's going on your value scale and get stuck energy unstuck, balancing those scales of the Libra Sun, that's what this stone is for us. If serpentine arrives in your life, it's an invitation to rip off all the proverbial band-aids and regroup. Hit the sauna, sweat it out, and release all lingering drama. This says awaken your reptilian nature. So the King of Cups is this watery masculine energy. It's very slithery, if you want to put it that way, kind of wet, kind of like a fish you're holding and it's slippery. This is awakening your reptilian nature, right? In the sense that he's going to tap into his inner python or his inner cobra king cobra, and spit venom. There's this hilarious meme I've got where it shows a king cobra spitting venom, and it says this MF, this mofo or whatever, this MF is spitting. It's just like that came to mind. Don't ask. But we have the ability to really kind of shed skin in a beautiful way while also maintaining structure. Here's a paradox. Like, we need to be adaptive and be water, my friend, like the Bruce Lee kind of thing, right, with the King of Cups. But we need to be sure of who we want to be and how we want to be in the equation. If, that's why Jesus is like, be hot or cold, don't be lukewarm. Don't just be people pleasing. Don't just say yes to these people and yes, and just no one knows what you're about. It's like, let your yes be yes, let your no be no, right? But do it in a compassionate, kind way, creative way. A firm way. The king, firm, what? Compassion. Firm, creativity. Firm, right? And then the crone is saying, like, don't just be what people want you to be. Don't just meet society's expectations. Don't just because you have a womb doesn't mean you have to have a baby. Just because you have a dick doesn't mean you have to go fuck everything, right? Don't just submit to the status quos in that sense. Evolve. to your ultimate level, which is an alchemized and balanced self. Like men are going to have feminine aspects and women are going to have masculine aspects, and that's okay. We all have everything in us. Know thyself. That's kind of the maxim, right? Seek equality internally, and you will find it externally. And the equality isn't just like everything's even Steven. It's like everything complements. So when there's a lot of fire, right? Like there's huge fire somewhere, and it's like all of a sudden we're like, please let there be rain. That's a compliment to balance it out. Or if there's a lot of water, we're like, please let there be a sunny day so it dries up. See what I mean? It's a balancing through complementary opposites. Gilbert and George are saying dress the part, so be who you are. Like I like Cowboy Bebop, I'm wearing a Cowboy Bebop sweatshirt. I like hats, so I'm wearing my hat backwards. I like psychedelic art, so I got this tapestry. I like cool woke shit, so me and Haley's engagement symbol is a Metatron's cube, right? So dress the part, be who you are, but then also be receptive and flowy enough to firmly be who you are, but open to the alchemy of others to participate with that, which creates a higher punctuation of evolution. Does that make sense? Equality. And we're not talking about equality like, oh, you're 6'2" and you're 5'4", cut off his legs so they're all 5'4". It's not like that. That's not equality. That's like detrimental. What we do is like raise the person. Equanimity is what we're looking for. So it's like raise the person who's shorter up to the higher level, or get that person to crouch a little. See what I mean? It's adaptive. Equality isn't exact like that. Equality is complementary. Dress the part. Be who you are. And awaken your reptilian nature. There's a level of us in our inner brain, our reptilian brain, that needs to evolve. It has a place. It had a place, like where it's just like fight or kill and fuck and all this stuff. And it's like we need to come into a place where we're compassionate with the world, and and women are strong and valued and seen as independent and not just like weak, right? And men are just not looked at as like the end of the patriarchy is happening, right? So awakening our reptilian nature, I think, would say raise the vibrations of that reptilian brain, right? With serpentine. Get into your slither mode. Shed that skin. Balance out Sun and Libra, right? Where we're coming into this place where men can be more creative and compassionate and feminine. That doesn't mean like everyone go have a sexual operation and become the other gender. That's not really what we're saying. We're saying you have everything in you already, so exercise all the muscles. If all you do is just pump lift, I don't lift, but it's like if all you do is upper body stuff and you don't do legs, like are there memes about that where it's like, oh my gosh, you didn't do leg day? Clearly it's like, have balance. Men, come from your heart more and come from your intuition more. Women, stand in your power more and don't just do what society tells you to do. And in doing so, we'll pop into an ultimate evolutionary state where there is real equality. Everything is always equal. Anyway, the Tao howls like that. But ultimately, dress your part, know who you are, and awaken your reptilian nature according to Serpentine. Let's go ahead and play some music. I've actually done a good thing today and set it all up. Yay. Usually I'm like, oh, I got to wait a second. Oh my gosh, what have I got to do? Oh, of course, is this going to work? There we go. So, huzzah for preparedness. And let's play some music. So with the King of Cups, this is super, dreamy, open-hearted, mystical. It's not surprising it's a Rastafarian king or whatever. Maybe drugs are involved. Whoa. Maybe drugs are involved. But ultimately, this is, Rastafarians like, Jah bless. Like, they're open and compassionate to everything. Remember the poor. It's their whole thing. Like, at least what I grok from it. With the crown as a clarifier, women can step up and be powerful. Is this like... Hold on. I can prop this up better. This is ridiculous. I guess this will work. Cool. The idea here is kind of a serpentine kind of feminine masculinity and a femininity that is strong enough not to give a fuck, basically. Do its own thing, right? So, sorry. King of Cups. We have the ability here to get into a place where we can create freely and bleed and not worry. Not be so strict and constrictive that we're like, oh, it's got to be this way. As men, or the masculine part of ourselves, should, I guess, be compassionate, open, and willing to bend, right? Simultaneously, the feminine part of us needs to be strong, firm, and zero fucks, right? In a sense. So it's this kind of paradox. The Libra Sun is like this. How do we balance the scales? With a very feminized masculinity and a masculinized femininity. And that doesn't mean get rid of the poles. It just means learn how to come to the ultimate evolution of these poles in complementary form. In what? In equality. Right? And equality doesn't mean like everybody gets $5 and that's it. It's like if you got $2, go play guitar for the rest of the 3. And if you got 5, loan a couple out so you can make. You see what I mean? It's like do things, adapt. But ultimately dress the part. So you have an element, like for example, I'm always going to be a more watery kind of, because of so much Venus and all this 12th house, 11th house stuff, very independent, watery, kind of feminine man, more poetic, more artsy than just like my way or the highway, or, you know, I'm always right kind of thing. I need to have a balance in my relationship, complement, for the equality with Haley, who is way more sure about what she wants and way more grounded and practical and way more of a boss, but it's perfectly complementary. I mean, I'm just using myself as an example, right? Awaken your reptilian nature. You have a slithery, primal self that needs to alchemize and come into a higher form, right? So do it through creativity, do it through exploration of breaking boundaries, do it through evolving, right? Ultimate evolution, right? Awaken your reptilian nature means like evolve. Don't just be competing for resources. Don't just think in terms of scarcity and lack. Awaken the thing and say, I have everything I need at all times. Come into a place of balance. The Tao is about balance. It's about ultimate harmony through hexagrammal dynamics. So it's not just like A equals A and B equals B. It's like how do A and B in all their polarity kind of interchanges come to a harmonic balance. That's what Taoism is, and the hexagrams are. Dress the part. So the 64 hexagram is not, the 1 hexagram is not the 33, is not, all these different numbers. Be what you are, and you will find things that you need to come and complement your alchemy. If you fake it, that would be the shadow of the Libra Sun. If you're not who you really are, you're going to find inauthentic, unfulfilling situations. If you're who you are, good, bad, or ugly, if you're a very, if you're a way laid back, Big Lebowski dude who's just like, chill, man. This aggression will not stand, man. Like kind of hippie vibes, or you're just like this, like kind of stoic boss, loner wolf chica. You'll find the complementary art that algorithms and art of other life, other people, to come and bring you to a balance, the ultimate evolution, the perfect unity, which is always happening. Just you got to be yourself. Don't fake it. Be who you are, and awaken your reptilian nature with Serpentine. It's saying it's time to be okay with all parts of ourselves, including the shadows, come into balance and integration and rise to the next level, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. So hit me up for readings if you want. I love giving them. No podcasts today. We've had some really good ones lately, so check out the podcast. And have a good Saturn day. Like Saturn's day is about like karma, balance, especially with the moon in Taurus and Venus now in Virgo. It's about like what's healthy, what's good. And sometimes health for this guy would be like, I need to take a bong rip and like write some poems. Whereas health for this chick is like, I need to like not be a wife who pumps out babies and cooks in the kitchen. I need to be my own witch. Like, what do you need for your ultimate evolution? Be who you are. That's what all the Tao is asking you to be, right? And life will respond in balancing out with you as long as you're coming from an authentic place. That's the whole point, authenticity, right? It will be met. Dress the part. Be your authentic self. And the parts of you, the reptilian parts of you that need to evolve, awaken them and raise them, right? And it's not saying reptilians are bad, it's just saying there's parts of us that are very kind of like a certain way, and we have to take that energy and kind of loosen it, expand it. It still has value. You get my point, I think. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I just realized this is loud as fuck. I have earbuds in, so it kind of makes it quieter. Have a good Saturday.